At Sun Chemical of Muskegon, employee safety comes first, and that includes the safety of outside contractors who perform valuable services critical to the success of our business. This presentation will provide you with specific information and guidance to ensure that your contract work at Sun Chemical is performed in a safe manner. Sun Chemical is the world's largest producer of printing inks and pigments and a leading provider of materials to packaging, publication, coatings, plastics, cosmetics, and other industrial markets, including electronic materials, functional and specialty coatings, brand protection, and product authentication technologies. We employ approximately 10,000 people worldwide, including 170 men and women at the Muskegon facility. Our pigments are used primarily in printing inks for newspapers, magazines, and product packaging. Your work here will take place in one or more of our 4 major operating facilities. They are the main plant, the IBTZ or Intermediates to Trezo building, the high-volume flush plant, and our maintenance shop boiler house. Now let's take a closer look at each facility. Anyone entering the IB section or TZ area of the building must first sign in. The intermediates portion of this building houses the key raw material for producing color, 3,3-dichlorobenzidine, commonly known as DCB. Access to the DCB storage area is highly restricted due to its classification as a suspected carcinogen. Only individuals with comprehensive DCB training wearing the appropriate personal protective equipment are able to enter the IB building. The TZ portion of the building houses the Tetrezo process equipment where a highly controlled chemical reaction takes place. Once it's completed, the Tetrezo materials are pumped over into head tanks on the upper floors of the main plant strike. Within the main plant of the Sun Chemical Muskegon facility lies the heart and soul of the site operation. Processes begin at the outdoor tank farm, where liquid raw materials are pumped to the head tanks on the 3rd floor. Also on the 3rd floor, raw materials are added to the charge tanks. From there, the contents of the various solution and charge tanks are then fed via control equipment to the main strike tanks on the 2nd floor, where the yellow and red organic pigment slurries are actually formed. From the strike tanks, the slurries are either pumped across the site to the high-volume flush operation or directed to the filter presses to produce press cake. High-volume flush, or HVF, produces flushes for the printing industry. Flush colors produced in the plant include red and yellow. The HVF plant has a variety of unit operations and a high degree of automation. These factors make it essential that the site work practices are followed to ensure the safety of everyone working in this diverse facility. The boiler house, maintenance, and engineering are all combined into one building. Natural gas-fired boilers are used to generate steam, which is regulated throughout the facility to supply the various end users. The maintenance shop is located in the middle and is where all contractors must sign in before starting work and sign out when leaving the site. Engineering is located on the west side of maintenance. As a contract employee, you are personally responsible for your actions. When working anywhere at our facility, you must follow safe work practices, wear required personal protective equipment, report unsafe conditions and practices, report all accidents to your supervisor, and maintain a clear and clean work area. You should have been supplied with a little red book of safety rules prior to starting work here at Sun Chemical. Complete site safety rules are outlined in the little red book and must be followed at all times. Each contract company for each and every project must attend a pre-job safety conference to allow for the complete communication of job-specific safety information. However, contractors who are routinely on site are not required to conduct a pre-job safety conference. Examples are snow removal, scale maintenance, and lawn care. All contract employees must annually view the safety video prior to performing any work. Each year, a hard hat sticker will be issued and affixed to your hard hat showing you are in compliance. Here's a few key safety points worth highlighting. All contract employees must sign in and out each and every time you are at the plant to perform work. You're expected to monitor your work areas and correct deficiencies and at all times comply with MIOSHA requirements. Safety training is the sole responsibility of each contract company. Examples include hazard communication, confined space entry, lockout, and fall protection, just to name a few. Documentation of your training must be made available upon request. You may also be required to attend additional safety meetings here at Sun Chemical. All accidents must be promptly reported to the Sun Chemical owner's representative and investigated completely to determine the root cause and corrective action needed. Again, complete detailed safety information can be found in your little red book. Compliance with our drug and alcohol policy is vital for the protection of contractors as well as for the employees of Sun Chemical. The use and possession of alcoholic beverages or illegal drugs on Sun Chemical property is prohibited. Any person appearing to be under the influence of alcohol or drugs shall be refused admittance. Sun Chemical is a non-smoking facility, with the exception of designated outdoor areas equipped with cigarette butt receptacles. Remember, smoking is not allowed in any vehicle inside the gate. When coming to work here at Sun Chemical, you'll need to know our parking policies. Gate 1 at the west end of the property is our contractor gate. If your vehicle requires entrance into the plant, you'll first need a vehicle pass from security located at Gate 2. Be aware that the number of vehicles parked on site is limited. If you're parked inside Gates 1 or 3, leave your keys in the ignition, display your parking pass, and park in designated areas. The speed limit is 10 miles per hour, and you're required to wear your seatbelt while driving on the property. Use extreme caution while driving since the roadways are shared with large and small vehicles and pedestrians. You should also be aware that any vehicle on Sun Chemical property is subject to search at any time. Plant entry for all contractors is made through security located here in the administration building. After passing through security, you'll need to sign in at the main plant maintenance shop. Here, you'll find clipboards posted on the wall near the shop office. Be sure to sign in and out with your name and the identification number assigned on your hard hat sticker. You need to do this every time you enter or exit the property, no exceptions. If you need to enter the plant during non-working hours, special arrangements must be made in advance through your Sun Chemical owner's representative. Proper care of the environment is very important to Sun Chemical of Muskegon. Do not bring any chemical onto the facility without prior approval. To get approval, the safety data sheet must be submitted to your owner's representative. If you create or see a chemical spill of any type or size, immediately notify your owner's representative. This includes spills of fuels or oils. Make sure you don't discharge any chemicals or fuels to the process sewer. Any chemical waste generated by a contractor is the sole responsibility of the contractor. If you have any questions concerning waste disposal, contact your owner's representative. On every project, a pre-job safety conference will be performed before any work begins. This conference will be facilitated by the Sun Chemical owner's representative and attended by the job site contractor supervisor, contract employees, and all subcontractors. The owner's representative will explain all safety requirements, special job conditions, the work area where the project is being performed, applicable emergency procedures, required permits, and personal protective equipment needed. Sun Chemical uses a safe work permit system for all contract work performed in the plant. No work can be performed until all applicable permits are issued by the Sun Chemical owner's representative. Contractors are required to inform their employees and subcontractors of the safety requirements listed in the permit for each job activity and location. There are 6 different Sun Chemical permits: safe permit to work, confined space entry checklist, line breaking permit, high pressure water blasting checklist, flame permit, and excavation permit. Let's review each of these permits more closely. All contract work requires a safe work permit before it can begin. The Safe Work Permit describes the specific job activities, the location, and job safety requirements. Please be aware that all other permits are invalid without first obtaining a Safe Work Permit. A confined space entry checklist is for entry into any confined space, such as a pit, vault, silo, manhole, or tank where the space has restricted access and egress and isn't intended for human occupancy. This includes open vessels. Confined space entry checklists require atmospheric testing, energy isolation, mechanical retrieval equipment, communication devices, and ventilation. An attendant is required to observe the entrance during the operation and to control the safety activities in and out of the space. The attendant cannot leave the entry point or area while employees are inside the space. Confined space entry checklists must be displayed at the entrance to the space, but remember, it is invalid unless a Safe Work Permit has been issued. All contractors performing confined space work must provide documentation of confined space training for their employees. Contractors may provide their own atmospheric monitoring instruments, retrieval devices, personal protective equipment, and ventilation equipment when necessary. Confirm with your Sun Chemical owner's rep that all sources of energy are isolated, locked and tagged out, and all entry personnel use personal locks. You must obtain all information concerning hazards and determine precautions, procedures, equipment, and personal protective equipment as needed. Coordinate entry operations with Sun Chemical owners' representatives and ensure proper entry equipment is at the site. Ensure operations are consistent with a confined space entry checklist and notify Sun Chemical owners' representatives upon termination of entry operations. In addition to a Safe Work Permit, a line breaking permit is required before opening any line. If more than one potential energy source requires isolation, an equipment-specific energy isolation checklist is also required. Prior to performing the line break, the contractor must review the Safe Work Permit and line break permit, then sign to accept the permits. The high-pressure water blasting checklist shall be used to identify hazards and safeguards and to authorize high-pressure water blasting work at pressures greater than 3,500 psi. The HPWB crew shall complete this HPWB safety checklist by reading each item and checking the appropriate box, yes, no, or NA, non-applicable. Once this checklist is complete, return it to the person issuing the Safe Work Permit for this HPWB work. This checklist shall be used to identify hazards and safeguards and to authorize high-pressure water blasting work at pressures greater than 3,500 psi. A no answer in any section will have to be corrected before any HPWB work can be done. The completed HPWB safety checklist shall be kept together with the Safe Work Permit and any other required permits and checklists while the HPWB work is being performed. At job completion, the HPWB safety checklist and other required Safe Work Permits and checklists shall be returned to the person issuing the Safe Work Permit. Flame permits are required for any type of welding, no matter how brief. It is also required for the use of a burning or heating torch, soldering, heavy grinding or cutting that spreads sparks, and any use of an open flame in the plant for any purpose. You must prepare the work area by removing all combustible material within 35 feet of the hot work. If that isn't possible, all combustible material needs to be protected from fire with a fireproof covering. If necessary, the work area should be completely watered down. Assign a fire watch that has a fire extinguisher, knows how to use it, and knows how to sound the fire alarm. If hot material or sparks fall to a lower level, a fire watch must be assigned for each level. However, the best practice is always to prevent hot material and sparks from falling below. Prior to working, Sun Chemical personnel will test the area for the presence of combustible gases and vapors with an explosimeter. Remember, your flame permit must be posted in the area where the work is being done. Finally, make sure your fire watch continues to watch the work area for at least 30 minutes after the hot work is completed. Like all permits, the excavation permit is only valid when accompanied by a Safe Work Permit. It's required for any earth penetration within the plant or on job sites adjacent to the plant. Excavation includes the use of tools such as backhoes, power shovels, jackhammers, pile drivers, augers, drills, and even hand tools. The excavation permit, unlike other permits, must be signed by the engineering manager before you begin. You are responsible for studying all underground reference drawings before work begins, taking note of any and all buried hazards of the work site. Hand digging should be performed if fragile or hazardous items are suspected. The owner's representative must be informed immediately if an unknown line or other hazard is found or if an emergency situation arises. Any excavation over 4 feet deep is required to have the sides laid back to a minimum of a 1-to-1 slope or shored properly to prevent engulfment. Remember, all work permits must be returned to the owner's representative and signed upon closure. Personal protective equipment called PPE helps protect workers from hazards that in many cases are difficult to control and anticipate. PPE can be equipment or clothing that protects an individual from injury and includes head, face, eye, hearing, respiratory, hand, foot, and body protection. In all cases, the proper selection and use of PPE is essential to your safety on the job. To perform contract work here at Sun Chemical, you're required to wear a hard hat, safety glasses with side shields, a sleeved shirt, and safety-toed shoes at all times. And remember, always wear your hard hat with the bill facing forward. This helps to protect your face from any chemicals that may drip from above. Safety glasses are required to have fixed side shields and be ANSI Z87 approved. Slide-on temporary side shields are not allowed. Hard hats must meet ANSI standard Z89.1 Type 1 or Z89.2 Type 2. Metal hard hats or bum caps are not permitted. The use of unapproved clothing and footwear is not allowed. Examples include canvas shoes, sneakers, house shoes, sleeveless shirts, tank tops, and shorts. Neckties, unrestricted long hair, beards, and jewelry are also prohibited. Protective gear such as rubber boots, gloves, respirators, or acid suits may be required depending on work location or project. In addition to safety glasses, a face shield must be worn when chipping, grinding, buffing, or using a friction cutoff saw or impact chisels. Chemical goggles are required in certain areas of the plant and when performing tasks where potential chemical contact to the eyes exists. When it comes to eye safety, always know the location of the nearest eye wash and shower in your work area. Tyvek type coveralls may be desired in certain areas of the plant to protect your skin and clothing. Tyvek suits, however, are not appropriate protection against hazardous chemicals. If a respirator is required to be worn during the performance of contract work, you must be properly trained in the type and make of the particular respirator utilized, medically approved to wear the respirator, and fit tested in the particular respirator to assure a proper seal occurs between your face and the facepiece. Your face must be clean shaven for respirator use with no hair below the lower lip, long sideburns, or beards of any kind. Training, medical approval, and fit testing are the responsibility of the contractor. Sun Chemical may at any time ask to see proper documentation of these requirements. As a contractor employee, you have the right to know and understand the hazards of chemicals that you may be potentially exposed to while working at Sun Chemical. For that reason, Sun Chemical of Muskegon has made any and all facility SDSs available online. If you have a question or want to see information pertaining to an SDS used at the plant, contact your Sun Chemical owner's representative or supervisor. In order to prevent harm, always be aware of chemical hazards. So protect yourself with personal protective equipment and stay clear of areas where chemical hazards may exist, such as chemical unloading operations. If chemical contact occurs to your eyes or skin, speed is essential. Ample amounts of water must be used to flush away the chemical and cool sensitive tissues that have come in contact with the chemical. For eye exposure, wash eyes with flowing water at the nearest eye bath, holding the eyes open for a minimum of 15 minutes. For skin exposure, wash the skin with flowing water in a safety shower while removing shoes and clothing. If goggles are worn, do not remove them until the chemical is washed away from the hair, face, and hands. Seek immediate medical attention following the shower by notifying a coworker. If no coworker is in the area, locate the nearest phone and dial 0 to reach security. Then state your emergency and location. Any chemical exposure must be reported to your Sun Chemical owner's representative as soon as possible. To prevent possible contamination, eating or drinking is limited to authorized areas of the plant. Before eating or drinking in an authorized area, always be sure to wash your hands and face. At the end of your shift, you are encouraged to use the Sun Chemical Contractor shower and locker facility. Sun Chemical will provide you with soap, towels, and a locker to secure personal belongings. Locks are the responsibility of the contractor. If you are injured in a way that could result in exposure to bloodborne pathogens, the area supervisor or owner's representative must be notified immediately. Sun Chemical's specially trained emergency response team will be summoned to the scene.
Security. Yeah, right away.
Emergency response required.
The emergency response team will administer first aid and clean up any contaminated materials or areas. One of the materials used at Sun Chemical is called dichlorobenzidine, more commonly referred to as DCB. DCB is highly regulated and requires a pre-planning meeting prior to any work involving DCB or any DCB systems. DCB systems are in the IBTZ building located on the south side of the main plant across from the tank farm. DCB is also located in the DCB warehouse on the west end of the HVF plant. Both areas are secure, so unauthorized personnel are not allowed in without proper training and permission. If you encounter a DCB spill, the exposure must be reported immediately and treated with a safety shower. A very important subject for contractor work is the proper barricading of your work area where potential hazards exist to other contractors or Sun Chemical personnel. Red barricade tape or chain indicates a hazard to people exists. Crossing this barricade could lead to injury. Never cross red barricade tape unless granted permission by an authorized employee. Yellow barricade tape is used to protect property but not life. An example would be to protect sensitive equipment that shouldn't be disturbed. When setting up a barricade with either color tape, the area should be completely enclosed with the tape placed approximately 36 inches above grade. The barricade tape shouldn't sag and should be securely fastened to stanchions or other support structures, ensuring that the barricade does not fall down. Finally, the taped area must be tagged out with a sign that contains the contact names and phone numbers of at least 2 individuals responsible for the area. For temporary openings in floors or walls, roof areas, or areas with dangerous fall hazard conditions, the area must be barricaded with substantial standard railings meeting compliance with MIOSHA standards for floor and wall openings. Never enter an area that is barricaded in this manner for any reason unless you are working in the area and protected with proper fall protection equipment. Barricades that are placed in roadways or walkways must be visible both day and night. Finally, barricade tape can only be removed with permission of the responsible party noted on the tag out sign. All contract employees that operate powered industrial trucks, referred to as PITs or aerial lift platforms, must possess a current MIOSHA-approved PIT license for the type of PIT being operated. You must also have authorization from the owner's representative. Forklifts must be operated in accordance with MIOSHA Rule Part 21 for powered industrial trucks. If a contractor is authorized to operate an aerial lift, cherry picker, or man basket on a lift, he or she must use fall protection and be secured to the lift at all times. Please review the sections titled Fork Trucks and Aerial Lifts on page 12 of the Contractor EHS requirements. MIOSHA and Sun Chemical require all workers to be protected from elevated falls or falls into dangerous equipment. And to accomplish this, the following fall prevention policy is in place and must be observed at all times. Whenever performance of any task would allow a worker to fall a distance of 6 feet or more, or any distance where the likelihood of a serious or fatal injury exists, the hazards of falling must be identified, evaluated, and controlled. In order to control fall hazards, the first alternative is to eliminate the hazard through guarding or approved lifting equipment. If that can't be done, fall arrest equipment must be used. Fall arrest equipment consists of body support in the form of an approved full body harness. The connecting equipment should consist of a lanyard or a properly adjusted climb preventer when using a scissor lift, approved D-ring connectors, and locking snap hooks. Approved anchoring requires a properly attached anchor point that will support a static load of at least 5,000 pounds. Before working on or in any equipment at Sun Chemical, all energy sources must be isolated and secured with a lockout device. Sources of energy may be electrical, hydraulic, steam, chemical, air, or stored energy such as gravitational or spring-loaded devices. Lockout works this way. The system energy sources are brought to a zero energy state by Sun Chemical personnel. Next, the system is locked out with Sun Chemical locks and tagged. The system is then locked out by contractor personnel using personal locks on the same hasp. This requires one lock per person for each energy source. If multiple energy sources are locked out, Sun Chemical may use the group lockbox method. Your personal locks must be standardized and be identifiable by employee name and employer. Each lock must also be keyed separately. When equipment is locked out, it is required to have an operator try to start or engage the equipment. Keys to any personal locks in use must be kept on your person during the entire operation. Never give your key to anyone or have anyone remove your lock for you. At the end of a job, when all personnel are clear of the energy sources, be sure to remove your personal locks. Re-energizing the system will be completed by Sun Chemical personnel only. Only qualified electricians